That's a band called Jackdawg from their one and only album released briefly in 1990. The trio included two former Doobie Brothers, multi-instrumentalist John McFee and drummer Keith Knudsen, along with former CCR bass player Stu Cook. The album, long out of print, has just been reissued, available for the first time on vinyl. Here is John McFee to tell us about making that record, along with dozens of others, including those by the Doobie Brothers, Elvis Costello, Van Morrison, even Rick James. So what keeps John McFee so motivated?
I don't know any better. I just no, I like music and I like working on music, so it's all good for me. So.
Yep. All right. So tell me about this Jackdawg thing, because this is like 35 years old. This record that kind of slipped out unnoticed a few years back, and now it's getting a vinyl reissue.
Right. Well, it was a thing that it evolved out of when I was in a group called Southern Pacific, along with
Right.
Stu Cook and Keith Knudsen,
Yeah.
and we went through various members and changes in Southern Pacific. But we signed to Warner Brothers Nashville. It was a country group,
Yeah.
and there's 4 albums and a greatest hits package. So we had some success, but at a certain point there were a few obstacles in the way where it was, well, it's time to wind this down maybe. And in the process of winding down, by that point had become a 4-piece with Keith and Stu and myself and our keyboard player and great vocalist Kurt Howell. But Kurt lived in Nashville, and Keith and Stu and I are out here in California. They were down closer to Los Angeles, and I'm in Santa Barbara area.
Right.
And I'm speaking to you from my studio, Lizard Rock. This is where we recorded all the Jackdawg
So I was going to
stuff,
say that
as well
sounds
as a lot of Southern Pacific and a lot of Doobie Brothers stuff too,
cool.
and other things. But anyway, but since my studio was here, and it's not that far for those guys to come up. They would come up here, and we came up with the idea of, let's just try something different. We've been doing this Southern Pacific country thing for a number of years. Let's go back and do we have rock roots too. Let's do some of that.
Yep.
So that's out. It was no big master plan or anything. We just wanted to do some stuff that was it would be fun and creative. Try to find some music that we liked and would have fun playing. So that's how it evolved.
It does sound rather timeless. It could have been recorded anywhere, anytime. It's just basic, unpretentious rock and roll, it sounds like.
Yeah, again, we were just doing it for the sake of doing music, and that's what I like about it. It still sounds, legitimate to me. It sounds there's a validity to it. So
Yeah. So it must have bummed you out when the thing never just panned out originally.
Well, it didn't really bum us out, I don't think, but it would be a little frustration perhaps, because we were doing it just for the heck of it with no
Right.
big plan in mind. And at a certain point, we realized, God, we got a bunch of songs now.
Right.
This is at least an album's worth. You've got like 15 tracks cut. Maybe we should do something with it, see if a record label is interested or see if anybody wants to hear it. So with that in mind, it was like, well, how are we going to go about that? And I suggested that we get in touch with a gentleman named Joe Gottfried, whom I knew from when I was in a group called Clover, starting back in the 1960s. And
Yep.
we at one point, Clover was signed to a production deal with Joe, and I always liked Joe, and he was one of the, you don't always run into this in the music business. He was a guy that I considered ethical and honest, and
You don't hear that too often.
well, not to make it sound too horrible, but it can be a little rare in
Right.
the entertainment industry. But anyway, I said, Joe, he said and Joe is besides being a manager, he was managing Rick Springfield, but he had also he was a founder and owner of Sound City Studios in
Oh,
Los
right.
Angeles,
Sure. Yep.
which is legendary, one of the greatest
Absolutely.
studios ever. And so he was a guy that really knew his way around the music business. He'd been around for a long time. And again, I thought he was a good guy. And I suggested, let's see if Joe's interested, maybe because he's, he does management stuff. And so we approached Joe, and he liked the music and said, yeah, I'll when you guys get your mixes ready, I'll see what I can do. I'll take it around. So that was the plan, and we were moving ahead on that. And Joe he was even older than us, and so, but it was still unexpected and sudden, and just rather, not a great thing. He suddenly passed away. And so that really was something that took some of the momentum out of
Right, right.
where we were headed. And it coincided with a point in time when Keith and I were being kind of drawn back into the Doobie Brothers. They're just, come on, you guys, come on back.
Yep.
And Keith, I mean, and Stu was talking with Doug Clifford about, hey, why don't we go out and play the Creedence stuff? We were part of that. We were hey,
Yep.
They were the ones that put the groove on those records,
Yep.
And so they were coming up with that concept, and we the three of us all kind of got kind of sidetracked away from the Jackdawg thing, but there was never an urgency. We were never out to like we're going to be stars with this or something.
Yeah.
It wasn't, it was something, it was music that we just wanted to make some music that we thought was good.
Yep.
So
were the songs co-written by the three of you, or are they some by one, somebody else, somebody else?
They're all co-writes, not always all the three of us. Like Bayou Rebel is one that comes to mind.
Yeah.
First of all, this was just Stu and myself, and Stu and I wrote that one. And but it was all collaborative amongst the three of us, one way or another. And well, we did do a couple of covers. We covered Rocky Erickson's "Cold Night for Alligators."
That's
and
fantastic.
Thank you.
Stu produced Rocky, right?
Yes, there was a big connection there. It was Stu having produced him and worked with him a lot.
It's a cold night for alligators. It's a cold night for dogs. The dogs choke on their barking when they see alligator persons in the fog and fog.
And then we also, I forget whose idea it was, but we covered Wild Night, Van Morrison's song, which I had played on Van's version, the original record.
And everything is so complete when you're walking out on the streets, and the wind catches your feet, sends you flying, flying. Wild night is cold.
A couple of covers, but mostly the rest of it's all original and written amongst the three of us.
And I would be remiss if I didn't mention the girl from Oz, since I'm down here next to Australia. And my understanding is that was written about the Vinyl's Christina Afflet, right?
That is correct. Yeah. And there again, it's been long enough. I have a saying, my memory's not what it used to be, as best I can recall.
Across the oceans, under the Southern Cross, fishnet exposure, more than a second thought. Oh, the girl from Mars.
But I don't really remember whose idea it was originally. But that when the vinyls were happening and stuff, and seeing their videos and stuff, and we all just thought Christina was really a hottie and just great, and the music was great. But there was also a bit of lust going on there.
Sure, fair enough.
But so we said, let's write a tribute to a girl we think is really cool, And so that was really, I guess, how I see the concept of that song anyway. It was just meant to be fun and about, hey, it's just something cool in this world,
Yep. I did manage to see the Divinyls back in the early '80s in the little club in Rochester, and she was a very intense performer.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
Did you ever meet her?
No, never did.
Oh man. Okay.
No, it was my admiration from afar.
All right. So you mentioned Clover, and speaking of Aussies and all that, Robert Lang produced you guys, right?
That is correct.
Because I have
Yes.
several of the albums
Oh
here.
my gosh. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Boy, going back, the one there is one of our fantasy records from back
Yes.
starting in the '60s when we were working with fantasy
Yep.
label mates with Credence, I might add.
Yeah, that's kind of is that just a coincidence, or is there a reason why?
Uh, in a way, it was coincidence. It was kind of something. Credence and Clover, I've known Stu since before Credence.
Oh, right.
Anybody ever heard of Credence? So we go back to maybe before their first record as Credence was out, but certainly before they had any hits or people knew about them.
Right.
So we were friends playing around the Bay Area together, and seeing each other and playing gigs together. We became friends, the two bands. And one of the reasons was Clover and Credence were Bay Area bands of that era that we were maybe, I won't say we're the only ones, but we were some of the only ones perhaps that were not trying to be psychedelic.
Right, I was gonna say,
We were more roots oriented.
Yep,
So
yep.
that was a musical bond, I think, that we kind of had, and it's possibly part of the reasons why we ended up on Fantasy Records, because as Creedence started having success, they said, and they've recommended us, I guess, and Fantasy ended up approaching us, and Clover, that is,
Yeah.
and we ended up signing with Fantasy. So
Yep, pretty cool. So what drove you guys to go to the UK, to England, to London, and record and because it seems odd.
I could tell you a very long version of the story, but it's really a series of kind of flukes or twists of fate, starting with a phone call out of the blue from a British drummer when Huey Lewis and Alex Call and myself, three members of Clover,
Yep.
lived together in a house in Mill Valley in Marin County, California. Got a call out of the blue one day from we answer the phone, and it's a gentleman with a British accent, and very
Right.
polite. He says, "I'm a drummer, and I'm over here playing with John Stewart from the Kingston Trio, but I really am a fan of you guys from your records you did on Fantasy." And this was after that was all over.
Right, sure.
And I got your number from a bloke down here at the Old Mill Tavern, and I'd just love to meet you guys. So he was so polite and nice, and well, okay. Well, we told him how to get to our house. So he
Right.
comes over and he tells us, it's not just me. There's a bunch of musicians in the UK that think you guys are the best of all North American groups and
What?
stuff. And we're going, what?
What?
We didn't
Yeah,
even know
right.
our records, our Fantasy albums. To us, they never did anything, and we
Yep,
didn't even
yep.
know they were released internationally or that they had somehow made their way to any other countries. So it was a big shock. And he said, it's not just me. Well, that led to us meeting. He says, "Is it okay if I tell my friends that they have got the number one album in the UK, number one record in the UK right now? They're coming over here to play Winterland in a week and a half. Can I give them your contact? So I know they'd like to meet you too." And we go, well, okay. Well, when he left, we went, could that be real? Let's go get a Billboard magazine and see if that group is anything, because we
Yeah,
hadn't
yeah.
heard of them. Well, we go, and sure enough, Dr. Feelgood, number one in the UK.
There you go.
And they're playing Winterland or whatever it was, the Bill
Yeah.
Graham venue, San Francisco. So that resulted in us meeting a fellow named Andrew Jakeman, or Jake Riviera. as
Yeah,
he
Jake
became
Riviera,
known.
yeah.
And Nick Lowe was
Right.
traveling with them, and he was another Clover fan.
Yeah.
So we met these guys that were fans, and that led to us signing a British management agreement with Dave Robinson and Jake Riviera,
Yep.
and moving lock, stock, and barrel within like 3 months. We moved to the UK.
Yep.
And that's how we ended up over there. And
Yeah.
it was, and the guy that called us, the drummer that called us out of the blue, was a guy named Pete Thomas, who became Elvis Costello's drummer. He's been with the Attractions and playing with Elvis ever since, and many other things. Great
Yep,
drummer,
yeah.
great guy.
Man, so yeah, you guys would have fit, I guess, right in with the old pub rock, Martin Belmont and the Rumor and all that stuff.
Yeah,
The
those
Brinsley
guys were
Schwartz.
all yeah, exactly. Well, Brinsley Schwartz group, they had a song. The part of the lyric was "Gonna saddle up and ride away back to them hills where Clover played." So they were that much of Clover fans.
That's amazing.
And we were stunned by all this. It was like, what?
Yep. Yeah. So that explains how you ended up on My Aim Is True. because of
Right.
that connection. But I'm really curious because I mean that album is incredible. I'm old enough. I bought it when it came
Thank
out.
you.
I was blown
Mhm.
away by it, and I still am. And so I got to wonder what you thought of Elvis and that whole scenario, and that because that was not what you kind of signed up for. I don't think. It was a different vibe, right?
Well, there again, that came out of the blue. It was I got a call from Jake Rivera, who was one of our management team, and Jake and Dave Robinson had started a little record label, independent, called Stiff Records. And
Yep.
one of the first artists they signed was a young guy, singer-songwriter named Declan McManus.
Right.
And Jake called me up and said, "Hey, we signed this guy, and I kind of, you did those two albums with Van Morrison. I hear him as kind of like a new twist on a Van Morrison type. He's that kind of he's a real artist, you know."
Yep.
I said, "Well," and he said, and he's a fan of you guys. He was of Clover. So how would you guys feel about backing him up on cutting a few tracks with him? I said, "Well, send us a tape. Let's hear what his material's like. See if we think it can work." Well, we were so blown away by the songwriting.
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
we heard the song, he's just hit Elvis with a guitar. Those songs, come on, that's enough right there.
Yep.
And so that's what led to us starting the whole process with Deck or Elvis.
Or Elvis. But and what was he like? Was he because I saw him several times
Uh-huh.
live around that time, and in fact I
All
remember
right.
once it was very tense because like Jake Rivera was in the crowd. He was like
Oh
people
yeah.
were getting out cameras and he was taking them out and smashing them and stuff. I mean,
I've seen him do that.
yeah, he did it right in front of me. He was like stomping on the guy's flash cubes and all this. I'm like, holy man, what's
Right.
going on here? So
Yeah.
was that did that roll over into the recording sessions and just in general?
Really not at all. Like when we first met Declan, he came down to Clover. We had, as a group, we had moved over there en
Yeah,
masse. We were,
yeah,
and so it's like, well, where are we going to live? Well, Jake and Dave found a place for us, a place called Headley Grange, which is pretty famous.
yeah.
It's where
Led
Led
Zeppelin.
Zeppelin recorded a lot of, about probably 80% or more of their material was recorded at this estate down in Hampshire, south of
Yep,
London.
yep.
Well, we rented it out and lived there because it was big enough. It had like, I don't know, 17 fireplaces. I mean, it was a big place, room enough for us to live without bumping into each other and to rehearse, and everything else was on 20 something acres. So that was where we were living. And so Declan came down to Headley and we would rehearse some songs. And it started out, I was just going to do a single. And
Yeah,
we are going to just put it out there and see what happened. So, and it was like, wow, this stuff is really great. Let's make him one side of the album. We'll do it one side of an album. One side will be Dak here, and the other side will be Reckless Eric, another
right.
artist that they'd signed.
Sure.
And then in the second session, when we went up to London to record, we cut the song Allison. And when they heard Allison, they said, "We got to do a whole album on this guy.
Yeah, yeah,
Forget
yeah.
about it."
Oh, it's so funny to be seeing you after so long, girl. And with the way you look, I understand that you were not impressed. But I heard you let that little friend of mine take off your party dress.
So, but it was all done in like 3 half-day sessions at a little 8-track studio in London. Very much a live album. And but Declan was really just even then it was clear, he's obviously a very intelligent guy.
Yeah.
But he was very, unpretentious and just, fun to work with because he was smart and interesting and
Yeah.
interested
Yeah.
in just creating music. So to me, it was an enjoyable experience. And,
Yeah.
we've been friends ever since. And I've had the good fortune to record
Sure.
subsequently to that project on
Yeah.
others with him as well. So,
Yeah,
and,
well,
and tour with him on occasion.
Yeah, you mentioned Allison. I mean, that song comes up as when people have these, oh, what's the best song of the 70s kind of thing. It keeps showing up in either 1, 2, or 3 for a lot of people. So did you realize how
Right.
special it was when you were recording it?
Um, kind of,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, like I say, when we his material in general, I mean, songs like Red Shoes or
Yeah.
Blame It on Kane, or you go through the songs, they're just great
Yeah.
songwriting, really interesting.
Yeah.
And but when we had cut Allison, there was did seem to be something extra special about that song. And but a funny side note is when I Nick Lowe produced that
Sure.
project
Yep. Yep.
and had the wisdom to realize that the best way to do it was to make it real. And there's almost that is like I say, it's a live album.
Yeah.
Like everything on there was played together, the bass, drums, guitars, everything. There's with a few overdubs, very few, and and I didn't punch in one note of guitar or pedal steel, anything, the
Right.
whole project. I was begging Nick. I remember on Allison in particular, I was going, Nick, I could play it better. Let me punch in. And he wouldn't let me. And I think that's one of the reasons that it feels so good because it's
Yeah.
us as players and with Elvis interacting in the studio together,
Yeah.
playing off of and reacting to and with each other.
Yeah. Interesting. So, you for yourself, do you consider yourself, or do you prefer being a session guy, a sideman, a bandmate, or a artist in your own right?
Well, it's all good. I feel lucky to be doing music
Yeah.
at all. I mean, I started playing before I could walk, literally, and my dad had me learning ukulele before I could even walk.
That's
So I've
your
been
gateway
attracted to
instrument,
music.
isn't it? Your gateway drug, the uke.
Yeah, yeah, it's the only one I was, it was small enough for me to handle. But it was attracted to music from an early age and never thought I'd be a professional. I just liked it. So I practiced and played all the time
Yeah.
and whenever I could as growing up. And then the Beatles came out and it was like, hey, even though I grew up playing country, hey, it's that McFee kid. He already knows how to play. Let's get him in our band. Everybody wanted to have a band when the Beatles came out.
Sure. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it led, that's what it's just one thing led to another. And I wish I could say I planned it, but it, I've just been the luckiest guy in having one cool thing after another happen musically.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Very cool. And you played with everybody. I mean, the list: Steve Miller, Grateful Dead, Boz Scaggs, Emmylou Harris, Rick James. I mean,
It is
so is there any
I
one
look at it
session
and
that
go, what?
stands out that just like goes, "Oh, that didn't go as I thought it would," or "That was interesting," or
Uh, there's a lot of them have been very interesting, but it's like, there again, for whatever reason, I've ended up, well, one cool thing for me is that the sessions happened because somebody heard me play and wanted
right?
me. They invited me to work with them because they liked my style.
Yep, yep,
So
yep.
there was never anybody telling me what to play or
Yeah,
here's your chart, play exactly this or something. Well, most of my session work anyway. There's a few where it's really just session work, but
yep.
most of it's been a real mutually creative effort with these various artists and like I say, I was invited in because they already liked what I was probably going to do. So I kind of got away with being me.
Right. That's all right. Yeah, yeah. And are did you have long-lasting relationships with people once you kind of met them, or is it kind of, oh, here you go, see you later, that was nice, but
Well,
moving on?
they've been long lasting, other than the fact that, man, time can go by. And there's some of the people I haven't seen for a long time, but I saw Steve Miller fairly recently.
Right?
We were at the Songwriters Hall of Fame induction awards. And we had a very long conversation, just reminiscing and talking about the old days. And but I stay in touch with Elvis and various people. But there are others that it's like years and years go by and
Yeah.
nothing. But it's like it's always. There's never been a bad relationship, thank God.
That's all right.
It's always remained friendly,
Well, it must be something about your personality as well as your playing that makes that happen because egos can get taken, in the way and all that stuff.
Well, yeah, I'd like to think that, but I hope it is. But who knows? I mean, there again, all these people. had conversations about people when people say, God, what was Bill Wyman like or
Yeah.
whatever? And I'm going, well, he was the most polite, gentlemanly person I ever met, maybe. I mean, it's like
Yeah.
these people, they've all been really gracious and great to me. You hear about the rock stars that are, all full of ego and pretentious and
Yep.
rude and everything. I haven't encountered that with the people I've worked with. It's
Cool.
always been really nice.
What did you do with Rick James?
I played. I think the album was called "Throwing Down." It was one of his albums, and for whatever reason, I got invited to play on some stuff, and I've got a copy of that album with the Mary Jane Girls, his backup singer,
Oh, yeah.
signed for me. That was pretty
Nice.
cool.
Because that's not your usual thing, but they still wanted that kind of country sound in there somewhere.
Well, I think he liked, because a lot of the time I play with a clean guitar sound.
Yep.
And so people associate me with that. And
Oh, right. Yeah.
I think he wanted some of that, whether it was country exactly or not. But
Yeah.
there was something about my style that I guess drew him to me. But
all right. And so you're currently a Doobie Brother again.
yeah.
And you had a new album out earlier this year, and it's
Right.
tour and all that. Is that an ongoing thing now? How's that been working out for you?
It's been great. I mean, the Doobies, people still. It's amazing to me sometimes. People really want to hear it still.
Yep.
So
Well, they did have a few hits back in the day. That helps.
Yeah. Well, I've got to say, sometimes I look at the set list and go, I'm impressed by it.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of hits, and so there again, and I think all of us, as we grow older, if anything, we appreciate the success and the fact that people do want to hear our music, and that people are still there for us, and it's amazing.
Yeah. Well, all righty. Well, thank you for sharing all that with me. And people, I think, are going to be impressed with Jackdawg, because I was like, oh, this is cool. Why haven't I heard this before? I was around back then, and just
well, it's
snuck through the cracks.
It's music without any rules.
If you enjoyed this episode of the 13th Floor's Music Talk series, please be sure to subscribe to the website or to the YouTube channel. Follow us on Facebook or Instagram, and wherever you find your podcasts. There's a whole lot more to discover.